what we're going to do today is to do complete honing process. But as with all honing processes, the first thing that you do is set the bevel. And this actually is the most critical step that there is, really, from a sharpening perspective for straight razors. Okay? And so probably at least 50% of the sharpening process rests with setting the bevel. If it's not set right and you continue through the process, you have a 50% chance of pass or fail. Okay? And the hope is that we want to get a nice, clean, comfortable shave.
Okay. All right. So I work in a series of circles followed up by some X strokes. All right. And typically what I do is 20 circles is easy for me to count when I'm honing. And the circles are very small. Okay. So I typically do 2 sets of 20 circles in each direction. That means with the edge to me. That means with the edge going away from me. Okay. When the edge is to me, I'm doing counterclockwise circles. When the edge is away from me, I'm doing clockwise circles. Okay. And so typically in one set, what I would consider one set, I would do 40 circles this way, 40 circles that way, 2 sets of 20. So if you ever hear 20 circles, that's where that 20 circles comes from. But it really is just basically, it's a series of just a number of circles. And so over the years, that sets of 20 or 40 going each way works best for me. I can count it. Okay. And so what you have to really do is make sure, and that's why I really like an 8x3 stone. Most razors are 3 inches long. So the razor, so long as you keep it flat on the stone, okay, which means keeping the spine and the edge flat on the stone all the time, will not have as much problem. You're not going to be as apt to wear either the heel or the toe unless you actually are not keeping the razor flat on the stone and putting pressure down there. Okay. Another key is I always try to keep this elbow up a little bit. That helps keep it flat. All right. So my grip really pretty much becomes holding almost in a pinch grip over the tang with the scale or the handle just coming across my hand. And so the pressure is coming from these 2 fingers pinching down onto the spine. Okay, and that helps me keep it flat. It also helps me flip it with that grip. Okay? All right. So let's take a run at it. And you can count the circles. I try to get as close to 40 going each way as I can. All right. And so you notice that I have the razor canted a little bit. The reason that I have that is some razors have the shoulder that come all the way down into the heel of the razor. Okay, and if I cant this razor a little bit, I can keep that shoulder off of the stone. Okay, and that seems to work very well. Otherwise, you'll actually hone right into that shoulder. And if you can't avoid that, I always try to. Okay, so it's the same thing on going the other way. I just switch the directions, and now we're doing 40 clockwise circles. Perfectly flat, just small circles. Okay. All right. Once I've done my 40 circles, then what I do is 10 to 15 X strokes. Okay, and it's just simply an X stroke coming across the stone. Doesn't have to be a perfect X stroke. Doesn't have to be pretty. But one of the things to pay attention to is you can see that now that I'm building up some swarf on this stone, which is the metal material that's darker, you can see it come across this green stone.
Right.
Is that line staying straight as I'm bringing that razor back and forth? I lost count, but I'm probably close to about 10. But again, I mean, these don't have to be beautiful X strokes, but they do have to be flat, and I am watching that line of water as I come across. Okay, so let's say that's 10 to 15. All right. So now that's one set, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to wipe the water and the stuff off the razor, and I try to keep this as dry as I can throughout the process. Normally, I try to limit this to 1 to 3 sets, okay? And if a razor's in pretty good shape, 1 set normally will suffice, okay? Once one comes off of the buffers, depending on how much work you've done on the buffers on them, usually it takes about 2 sets.
Okay.
Okay. But how I test is, do you know what a sharp pocket knife feels like?
Generally, yeah.
Generally, okay. And so that's something that most guys typically have kind of an understanding, is it feels like if I press any harder, I'm going to cut my finger. All right. And so when I use the thumb pad test, I always tell people, a lot of people will approach it going straight up and down the razor, which is a big no-no, okay? So you're just using the pad of your thumb, and you're just kind of setting it on there and wanting to bring it across the razor. And if it feels like it's so sharp that if I press any harder, I'm cutting myself and it doesn't want to let go of my finger, then we're good. And that's the feeling that I want all the way up this razor.
Is it there yet?
It's pretty close. I'm going to do one more because we're going to try to educate your thumb.
Yeah.
But this is pretty close.
So I'd like to see what pretty close feels like.
Feel how that just doesn't want to let go?
Yeah, it's grabbing, but it's not feeling like it will slice clean through.
Okay. And now what you're doing though too is you're just giving a little bit off the side of your finger. Okay. I want you to lay the middle of your thumb pad on there and just lightly press and then try to drag your finger across it.
Okay.
And feel the difference with that.
Doesn't feel sharp.
Okay. But can you feel wanting to grab?
Yeah, I feel like grabbing, but
Okay.
it's not.
Okay. And
Feeling-
that's why I'm going to do another set.
Sure.
But it's getting there.
Yeah, I don't feel like when I'm doing that, if I push harder, it's going to cleave. It's just.
Okay. But this is actually not bad. This is fairly close, but it's just not quite there. And remember, we had this thing on the buffer for a half hour.
Yeah.
So let's just see though what a
It's so
second.
shiny now.
let's see what a second set will do though. See how nice that
Line's coming, yeah.
that line is? It's very, very straight. And so I'm keeping that really flat, okay, keeping the elbow up. And this is one of the reasons I really like this Naniwa Chosera. It's not quite as soft to feel as the other Naniwa, but it's cutting quick, but it's not so abrasive that it's really tearing up my razor.
Okay.
So it really gives me the chance to establish a good bevel. The 1000 in the Superstone is actually okay too. It's just a softer feeling stone. This stone this little bit of a harder feeling is just kind of the optimal for this particular stone for me. I mean, there's other good stones. Sigma makes a good stone. Shepton Glass is a good stone that I really like. Arishiyama is another good stone that I really like in a 1K. But they're all fairly consistent in price. Shepton may be a little bit more in the case. Okay, so let's see if I can pay attention to the 15 this time, or 10 to 15.
Sure, the OCD people on YouTube will definitely count.
Oh yeah.
That was 17. He did 17.
Well, this is actually a funny story. Glenn GS6 gun, who's a friend of mine, he did a video trying to show this method, and so he labeled it or was talking about it in 20 circles, okay. And even when I've showed it to him, I'm explaining it the same way as you with the 40 circles. So as he's explaining the 20 circles, then into the 2 sets into doing 40 circles, on the video he actually did about 150 circles. So,
Someone counted.
but and the other thing, I mean, for me, when I'm doing this, I actually am using really firm pressure. Sometimes people have said they can feel the table shake when I'm using that firm pressure. But on the 1000 stone in the first set of circles, actually when I get to a 4000, I'm using a ton of pressure. Okay, even on the X strokes. But then once I get to the second set of circles on the 4000, once I get to that really polishing version of this honing process, from there on out, I use the weight of the blade. Okay, but to set the bevel, I'm always using firm pressure on this. Okay, all right. Let's see how we're feeling now.
Doesn't look like it's quite there.
It's feeling like it's almost there. I may just for the sake of doing one more, do one more, but it is really pretty close. Okay. You can feel that it's notched up a little bit from where it was. But I want it just a touch more. I hope you didn't cut yourself.
No, not quite deep enough to.
But feel the difference though?
Well, I felt like I almost cut myself there.
Yeah. But, I mean, you really
I wasn't sure, but there's still a line there, so yeah.
You really do. You want it like pocket knife sharp, which is just where when you're resting your thumb pad on there, and it just doesn't want to let go. It wants to travel. And when you get that same feeling all the way up the edge, then that bevel will be set right. Okay. We spent, the 30 minutes on the buffer did a little number on this thing. So,
Oh, yeah.
2 to 3 sets on this is fine. If I thought this was going to take 4 or 5 sets more than that, I'd have put a layer of tape on it.
Okay.
Okay. But for this, I'm with 100% confidence that it's going to hit this next time to where I want to move on. But we'll see, and then we'll go from there. Don't cut your finger this time.
No promises. You do have a, super glue around here somewhere.
Oh yeah.
I do.
And my wife's a nurse, so you're in good.
I'm good. So if we need stitches.
Little bitty circles, man. All right.
It's almost just a vibrating back and forth.
Yeah. There. Some people even do a little tool chisel stroke. I just like the circles better because to me it's just a nice blend all the way across the blade, and because the blade virtually goes all the way across the stone, I'm pretty certain most of the time I'm keeping the blade flat against that stone, and I'm taking the amount of metal that I want off that edge and shaping it the way I want it to. All right, let's hope that's close to 10 or 15. We're doing this. This is a test of the audience. They're going to put comments out there and tell us what the hell we're doing.
Can someone please come back and count for us?
Oh yeah,
We
this
didn't
is
learn how.
this is there. Okay, this is all the way there.
And with this stone, you can shave with this, but you wouldn't want to.
You really wouldn't want to. I mean, you can cut hair. It would be a very uncomfortable shave. Not that it can't be done, but it would be
Lots
very
of pulling,
uncomfortable.
lots of tugging, lots of nicks.
Feel the difference. This is all the way there. This feeling that you're feeling right there when you start honing, that's what you want to feel. That so long as your bevels are set to this level, to where you have that feeling with that edge, we can go through the entire rest of the process and never have to do another test. Okay, except once we're done, just to test and shave it. Okay?
And that's good all the way along.
Yep. Yeah, it's grabby and it's sharp all the way from heel to toe. Okay? So I would tell you right then and there that what we have just done is a demonstration on using the circle method for establishing a bevel using a Naniwa 1000 Chosera stone. Okay? Cool.